Douglas Allen Bickford. It is the 1st of July 2022, about 7:15 a.m. here, Klamath Falls, Oregon, which is my hometown. Broadcasting live out of my 105-year-old house here. I'm teaching you how to be positive towards yourself and towards others and towards your world. And the way to accomplish that is to attain and maintain self-esteem. It comes out of a book right here, okay, called The Portable Therapist. What self-esteem is, what it means, it's also known as self-confidence, self-worth, self-love. It's how you feel about yourself inside, okay? You can think of self-esteem as this way. Most people don't know what the two words even mean because nobody's teaching it. What it means is we've all been in romantic relationships. You know that good feeling when you first meet these people? They can walk on water. They walk on water. They do no wrong. You can do no wrong in their eyes. You're bragging to all your family and friends, man. You can't wait for everybody to meet them. Your soulmates. You're going to die together. You're never going to separate. Anyway, so what self-esteem is? That good feeling towards yourself. Dr. Susanna McMahon, who is 73, lives in Madrid, Texas with her husband. Okay. Her doctorate's in psychology, so it makes her a psychiatrist. She also has a master's in philosophy. Has had thousands of clients. People would hire her as a psychiatrist to fix their unhealthy mind. She wrote this book, The Portable Therapist, in the 90s, and every chapter in it talks about, it doesn't have chapters, it's in question form. I call it lessons. Every lesson in it talks about how we've been trained and taught not to have self-esteem. Okay. So her clients would hire her to fix their unhealthy minds. So she has had thousands of clients. She knew as a psychiatrist, knows as a psychiatrist, that in order to attain a healthy mind, you have to attain self-esteem. And she had to come up with a concept to give her clients self-esteem, to get them to give themselves self-esteem. Nobody can give you self-esteem. She couldn't give it to her clients. I can't give it to you. Okay. So she had to devise a way to get her clients to give themselves self-esteem. And here's that concept. It's called mirror therapy. Look at yourself in the mirror and say 4 things. I love you. I love my inner child. I'm worthy to be loved. Worthy to love. I am full of goodness. Those 4 things to yourself in the mirror daily will give you self-esteem, just like it gave her clients. And you have to practice it daily. Okay, you have to say it daily for the rest of your life. Okay, basically, that's the bottom line. Because to maintain that self-esteem, it will give you self-esteem instantaneously as soon as you say that to yourself in the mirror. Instead of criticizing yourself, folks, we're all in front of the mirror. Criticizing ourselves because we're all imperfect, okay, especially when you get older. But anyway, so you have to practice it daily. It's like lifting weights. If you start lifting weights and stop, you have to start over from scratch, okay? Self-esteem is the exact same thing for the brain, and that's why she came up with this concept, mirror therapy, right? And the other reason she came up with mirror therapy is because as a psychiatrist, she went to school many years, 10 years, to get her doctorate in psychology. They study the science of the mind, how the brain functions. So she knows that we cannot lie to ourselves in the mirror. A psychological event happens in your brain. You cannot tell yourself, look dead straight in your eyes and tell yourself a bold-faced lie. Okay. And so that's why you can get in front of the mirror and either think bad things about yourself or literally say them about yourself because you're not lying to yourself in the mirror, and that's how you feel about yourself. But you can't say good things to yourself in the mirror, and those 4 things are a good thing to say to yourself in the mirror because you don't believe it about yourself, and you would be lying to yourself in the mirror. Okay. She knew it as a psychiatrist, and that's why she came up with that concept. So, the very first time you do it, folks, you got to force yourself to do it like I had to. Okay. And the reason it's so vital, so important that you get self-esteem, attain it and maintain it, right, is because you can't be content without it. What content means is you feel good about how, where, and what you are. It's also known as internal peace. There are 11 things that people are using to try to be content. They are Facebook, drugs, alcohol, sex, television, gambling, food, religion, another person, material possessions, or money. Those 11 things are known as externals that are outside of yourself. They will make you content temporarily, but that good feeling never lasts. It's always fleeting, okay? The absolute only thing that will make you permanently content is to attain and maintain self-esteem, okay? You all know what I'm talking about, that the alcohol buzz goes away after you drink it. I mean, you know, unless you drink more. And then that drug high buzz goes away. Okay, so you have to do more drugs, you have to do more alcohol, right? And you can include caffeine. That caffeine buzz goes away. So you drink more coffee to get more buzz, right? To make yourself awake, feel better, okay? But it's always a temporary fix. And then the other 9 things are exactly the same. They never are permanent. And like I said, the absolute only thing is the 4 things to yourself in the mirror, daily without fail. Okay. And the other reason it's so important to attain and maintain self-esteem. Can't be loved without it, and you can't love without it. So what happens in relationships, whether you marry or you don't, after the good feeling goes away, and you move in and all the stuff starts happening together, and then you get tired of that person, and then both of you get tired of each other, and the good feeling went away, so you think you're out of love, okay? So then that's when the relationship becomes toxic. You attract exactly what you are when you get in romantic relationships. If you don't have self-esteem, you'll attract somebody without it, okay? Then the relationship gets toxic because you can't get in a healthy relationship until you attain and maintain self-esteem. You have to love yourself first. So that's when the fights and the arguments start, the cheating on each other, the lies, all the secrets that are held between the two, drug and alcohol use, going to bars, picking up strange people to have sex with, just all the bad in that toxic relationship. Both people go to their friends and family and say how terrible these people are to you. And then because the relationship turned toxic, you'll split up, okay, or divorce or whatever. And then those same 2 people will go jump right back in another relationship without attaining self-esteem. And the exact same thing will happen, okay? Because you got another relationship with nobody went in without loving yourself first. And that's why I've been married 4 times. That's why you've been married more than once. That's why you've had many failed relationships, okay? Because you got somebody that didn't have self-esteem because they can't love you and they can't be loved. Just like you can't love and be loved without self-esteem, okay? And then the next thing that'll happen with 2 that got in relationships without self-esteem, you'll stay in that relationship forever. And that's because you don't want to be a failure. You're being codependent on each other. You're afraid you can't be alone. You're afraid to leave, and you don't want to be an embarrassment to all your family and friends. So you'll just stay in it forever. And then all the emotional, sexual, and physical abuse from those 2 that they did to each other and then passed on to their children all gets swept under the rug. And then it becomes a dysfunctional family at that point. And there's a lot of this happening too. And then dysfunctional families produce dysfunctional families. And then the next one happens down the line, exactly the same thing. Everything gets swept under the rug by all the children, and then it just goes on and on. The cycle continues. The only way to break the cycle is to attain and maintain self-esteem. Okay. All parties involved. And then the last thing that'll happen is the two that have been in many failed relationships and marriages will just exit out of the romantic scene and say, screw it, I'm done, and then live alone the rest of their lives because they can't find anybody to love them and they can't find anybody to love because they don't have self-esteem. So, the good news is you can all attain and maintain self-esteem, and then all those relationships can be fixed, including the relationship with yourself that you're out there miserable using the 11 things to try to feel good. Then you will be content, because you can't be content without self-esteem, and you'll be happy alone. Okay? Once you attain and maintain self-esteem. And if one of the people in a toxic relationship wants to change, but the other one doesn't, it'll give you the strength and the courage to walk out of that toxic relationship and be by yourself, and then find somebody that has self-esteem that you can have a healthy relationship with. So, I am going through this book, Dr. Susanna McMahon's book, Portable Therapist, one lesson at a time. And here's that next lesson. Why am I depressed? One way to define depression is that our anger has turned inward against ourselves until everything becomes self-defeating. Depression exists when our thoughts, our perceptions, and our observations of reality begin to match the negative expectations that we have created for ourselves and for our world. So you create your own depression, folks. People become depressed when they are not encouraged, reinforced, and taught to believe that they are good. And you are all full of goodness, folks. You just don't know it. Nobody's told you that. Sensitive people often respond to all the negativity in this crazy world by internalizing it and becoming depressed. It is important to know that there are many types of depression, but the two main sources are genetic, physiological, and situational adjustment reactions. Those of us who have a family history of depression, who are frequently depressed without reason, may need to be evaluated for physiological causes. In these cases, medication can often provide relief from what is genetically at fault. Trying to talk ourselves out of our depression with only therapy or using role models and support from others is similar to trying to talk ourselves out of a vitamin deficiency. In these cases, our development of self-esteem will be severely hampered by biological impediment. So in other words, you have to take those medications. Antidepressants work. And when we do have physiological depressions, using these medications along with support and therapy makes the most sense. Genetic depression is not a personal weakness and is not something that we can conquer by willpower. It is similar to the color of eyes in that we were born with this trait, and it is out of our control. Seeking help from all available resources, including medication, puts the depression within our control. Now listen to this. The other main source of depression, so most of us don't have all those depressions. It's the main source of depression is situational. This means that we are being affected by something in our environment. There are many good reasons to be sad, and it is a human response to be depressed when we encounter loss or trauma and pain. But this type of depression caused by loss is similar to the pain in that it will decrease over time. Chronic depression is different. This does not pass over time, but takes over our lives and becomes the only way we perceive the world through depressive eyes. Chronically depressed people are angry and self-centered. They do not have any sense of their own personal power, and they do not feel strong enough to take responsibility for themselves. The people around them know how much negative power these depressives exert. These people are very difficult to love because they turn away from love, either for themselves or for others. Chronic depression is not a feeling like sadness. It may be an absence of all feelings or overwhelming combination of all feelings together, which produces a lack of feeling. Chronic depression may feel hopeless, but now here's the key to this, okay? Chronic depression may feel hopeless, but it is not. I got a friend that's like this, and I'm not going to mention any names. He's been like this, chronically depressed his whole life, okay? And he doesn't have to be that way. People can and do get over their depressions. If you are chronically depressed, my friend, you're never going to watch this video anyway, accept it and stop the blame. It helps enormously to want to be over the depression. Realize that you are not only feeling depressed, but that you are also behaving in a depressed manner. This is for all of you out there too, folks, not just for my friend. You can change your behaviors, and using drugs and alcohol, folks, is making you depressed even more, okay? It's never going to fix you. So you got to quit using drugs and alcohol. You can change your behaviors and your feelings will follow, but as long as you're using drugs and alcohol, folks, those feelings are you're never going to be able to change. Drag yourself out of your depression long enough to seek help. Try courage. Do something different, even though you do not want to or do not have the energy to do it. Do it anyway and reward yourself for being courageous. Recognize that your perceptions of yourself and your world are just that, perceptions, and are not your reality. You can change the way you perceive things. Try to learn observing eyes. Become selfish and take yourself out of the center. It takes time, but you have nothing but time. Woo! Period. And she's kind of like chastising people that are chronically depressed, because you don't have to be, folks. And to be positive, you can change that all around for you by saying 4 things to yourself in the mirror, even if you are chronically depressed right now, watching me. So you can be positive, be courageous, take the bull by the horns, and change your depressed mind, okay? By saying 4 things to yourself in the mirror, then you will be positive towards yourself and others, and you will be able to quit using drugs and alcohol, even though you're depressed. But I'm going to have another lesson for you tomorrow, which is, why am I so afraid of my feelings? Lesson 46. I can be your mentor when you start going through this change. Say those 4 things to yourself in the mirror daily, folks, without fail. 458-232-5238. I can encourage you along the way once you start going through your change process, and you will change if you start saying those 4 things to yourself in the mirror. You'll have a great day out there, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow.